What's up, guys? I'm back here again with the final, actually, interview in the series of pre-playoffs kind of interviews we've got going on, and I'm finally joined here today with Burstie from FTWin. So yeah, pretty low expected one, I suppose, as the final one. You know, what can I say? But anyway, how are you doing
Mhm.
today? How's it going?
I'm doing great, yeah. Thank
All
you.
right, that's good to hear. And so you've TASL's been done for a while now. It's probably been about over a month since I guess you guys have played at this point. But considering the season as an overall, how did you guys feel about your kind of results? I guess.
I think in terms of the regular season, our performance really doesn't say anything at all. Like, especially if you look at the other teams in the top four, like you can say Starburst had a really good season. They're probably gonna do well in playoffs. Same with Freeze. But with us, we swapped around so many rosters that, I don't really think you can draw many conclusions from just watching our preseason games or like regular season games. Because we were playing with Tune at one point, which was a
Yeah.
super different style, and then we also played with Bagel a bit, which was completely different from what we usually play. And yeah, now we're playing with Shak, so that's
Yeah.
kind of what we're comfortable with.
I was
Definitely
gonna
what we're
s-
strongest with.
I was gonna say your styles were definitely all over. I think you only played 3 sets because of people dropping, or did you play all four?
We played all four.
Okay, you did play all four. Oh right, I didn't get to catch the Supernova one because of time, unfortunately. But out of the three I watched, so the first one you played with Toon as in like a double support, and then you played with Bagel in this weird double splat lane, and then finally you played with the Shaq. And then you played with Toon again, but you tried to put him in a Shaq role with like this passive K shot, as a lot of people
Mhm.
have kind of labeled it. So I guess playing through those different styles, did you feel like there was one that did suit you best out of those, or did you feel like none of them felt really FT win to you?
I think our first double support comp could have been something. It was kind of awkward though, since it was so
Yeah,
much more different, and I definitely think it's exploitable. But yeah, the ones we have the Bagel definitely were pretty bad, which is unfortunate just because Bagel's weapon pool didn't really fit well with the weapons we had. And then the one with Shock or Toon playing more of a shock role definitely could have worked. We just needed a bit more time. We didn't really
yeah.
get much time to prepare for that match.
That makes a lot of sense. And in fact, talking about that match, since it's a big one in a lot of people's eyes, it was the first time, I guess, since you guys have lost to an NA opponent in a long, long time. I can't actually place like, normally I can think of these last times around about. I can't think of a time you guys have lost to an NA opponent. Uh, I don't
Mhm.
even know if you have. I don't know if you have. You might know more than me. But yeah, so it's a big loss. How did you guys feel about that set afterwards? Did you think it was just because of those losses, or did you really underrate Starburst going in, or did you know that they were going to be that tough? Did you know they were going to be that strong? Like, what were your thoughts on that set as a team, especially?
Alright, so it was a really weird situation. So Toon has a full-time job now, and the reason why we played with Bagel is because he would always get home late and we never get to play Europe. So we started playing with Bagel more just so we get that Europe experience. And then going into the Starburst match, Toon was on a break, so we had two options. We could either play with Bagel and probably lose since what we were doing wasn't working, or we could try and play with Toon and try and make it work, and that's what we did. We definitely didn't underestimate Starburst. I think a lot of like the casters and analysts like overestimated us. I
Yeah.
definitely think that they were strong enough to beat us, especially with our comp. But I don't know. I think a lot of it was the fact that we were playing with Toon. Like that was definitely the strongest Starburst has ever played, in my opinion, in a tournament. But at the same time, we were in a really, really weak state. So yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And in fact, going over to Starburst, so they have Brad and Jared, and I've kind of been talking about these two for a bit now because I it was literally I'm happy I had Mika first because when I first had Mika on, he said apart from his own teammates, Brad and Jared are the kind of the frontline duo he is most scared of and think is going to do the most to them. Um, Obviously, I'm not gonna let you be biased and say your own team. Is that how you guys feel as well, or are you more worried about playing Skoze, Urza, or I guess it'd be Free Noxus slash Mika if you count that as a third? Or would you say
Uh,
that Brand Jarrett is the scariest?
yeah, I definitely agree with them. Fighting Freeze, like it doesn't really feel like I'm being overwhelmed by their like duo going in like Noctis and Free. It doesn't feel as overwhelming. And Urza and Skoze feels like a lot of what they do is really telegraphed and a lot of times really predictable. But with Ryan and Jared, I think when they're playing well, it's not like unbeatable, obviously, but it's definitely a problem. Like, and you could see that in the set we played with them in the regular season. Bran was playing like phenomenally.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I suppose if that's not really the issue on Freeze, which is another team a lot of people are talking about, would you say it leans more towards Xera's? And because a lot of people are hyping up Xera's, and would you say that Xera's is the best charger in the game right now, or do you think it's someone else?
It's kind of hard to say because in the case of Freeze, they play a lot more around Zeras. Like, if you look at Starburst, Ice is more of a team-based charger, which isn't necessarily bad, but if you're looking at like just KDs and like his gameplay, he's not getting as many shots, but at the same time, he's helping his team in other ways. I'd still say that probably Zera's in terms of like raw mechanical skill, probably the best right now, but I don't know. He's definitely like I guess the most important member on Freeze, at least in our eyes. He
Okay.
opens up a lot of their gameplay.
I suppose in a way, could you compare Ice to Shak then, where his teammates will feel his impact a lot more than the enemy team? So I feel like a lot of players on the enemy team, for example, speaking to Freeze and even Rift, like a lot of the EU teams, are not feeling too worried about Shaq because, you know, he's not free, he's not running in, he's not trying to drop 20 bombs. So would you say as a teammate, you'd probably feel Ice's impact more? Or
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
because you've
Like,
played with Ice in the past.
yeah, he's a much smarter charger. Not trying to like put down the other chargers, but he has much better game sense, and I think especially when you're like pairing up with the charger, a lot of time it can be difficult because if they just whiff their shots, then you're basically in a 1v1.
Yeah.
But with Ice, I think he's pretty good at hitting top shots, which is something that like the EU chargers don't really do a ton. They mostly like try and go for the crazy picks across the map and less so like supporting their teammates like directly in front of them.
Yeah. That makes sense. And I suppose, you know, talking about the charges and the teams, considering the way you're talking, I'm just going to make the assumption, do you feel like the Starburst are going to win the Rift match? And how close do you think it's going to be? Or are you more unsure about it?
If you asked me like a week ago, I would have said Starburst takes it pretty easily, but watching Starburst gameplay in like the past week, I think they've definitely gotten weaker.
Yeah.
Uh, and especially looking at like all the top teams, basically no one except Rift is scrimming a ton. We're obviously a week off, but you know, Starburst really isn't putting in the same practice. However, that being said, I think Rift is like kind of a caliber below the other teams in the top four.
Okay.
They're not bad necessarily, but I definitely think that there's a gap between them and the rest of the top four. So everything considered, I think Starburst still takes it, but I think it's gonna be a lot closer than everyone may initially think.
Okay, so I mean, obviously on your side, I doubt you're going to say, yeah, we're going to lose to Freeze. So you're expecting to play Starburst in the finals, but before that match, how difficult do you think Freeze is going to be? I mean, obviously you think they're going to be, I doubt you're going to say, oh, Freelo, you know, it's Freeze and everyone's going to be hyping them up. But are you feeling really confident about them, or is there anything in particular you are worried about?
I think they kind of play like a really standard game. Like we actually, I was watching one of their streams and they're complaining like, oh, we have like who are we gonna play to practice against FTWin? And it's a valid point. Like
Yeah,
no one plays a comp similar to ours, so how are
at
they
least
supposed
at
to
your
get their
level.
practice?
Yeah.
Yeah, and for us, like we can play random Europe team number 37 with Charger, Zap, Machine, whatever, and we still get practice against their comp. So
Yeah.
that's definitely one thing. They had a really strong regular season performance. But even then, I think we're definitely feeling confident going in the match. Not like a sweep, but I think we can definitely take it.
Yeah, but like I guess the one thing that I'd kind of look at as a difficulty, and I'm wondering if it is for you guys in general, is you don't have a charger, and charger has been like a little talked about more recently. It's always been I feel like charger's a topic that always comes in and out because it's always really dominant, especially in certain
Mhm.
situations. Do you feel like that is going to be a major issue for you guys, or do you think you've got kind of charger like kind of nailed down? You know how to deal with it, and in general, like, is it hard playing without a charger for you guys? Would you rather that Biscuit was a charger player?
I think well to address that question, probably not. We played with Charger players in the past, and just like the way that we play, the style that we play, Charger doesn't really facilitate that because we like to, armor up, run in, and Charger obviously can't do that. It obviously goes much deeper, but like that's like
Yeah.
the basis. And in terms of what was the other question?
It was so. How do you feel like you guys are dealing against Charger? So
Oh yeah,
do you think
so
you've pretty much got it down? You know how to deal with Charger teams at this point, or is it still a difficulty?
So playing against Charger when you don't have a Charger is definitely like really annoying because basically the entire enemy team can like stand in angles where usually they wouldn't be able to if it's just like out in the open. We can't necessarily contest it as easily as like a Charger team would be able to. At the same time, we've been playing like this comp with like our backlist for or like iterations of it for around a year now, so we're pretty experienced. And in terms of like, oh, the charge are just gonna destroy us, it doesn't really happen. Like it can happen some games where we're not paying attention or whatever, and we can get picked off, but we've definitely gotten way better at dealing with charger comps.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. In fact, I think I saw a tweet from, I'm not sure which FTWin member. It feels like a Kyo tweet. Um, it was something about, why are you complaining about us spamming bombs and spamming specials when you're playing Charger and we just can't walk into a free like we're not dumb. I suppose that makes a lot of sense in a way because you're running like a 4-bomb comp, I think, at this point. Like you have Junior, CDS/shot. I guess it Kyo depends what he's playing, but he pretty much has Fizzy, Burst Bomb. So yeah, you have a 4-bomb comp most of the time. I
Mhm.
guess that really does help against Charger.
Yeah, a lot of people like when you're playing against charger, you basically always have to be behind cover. So the natural progression of that is how do we apply pressure behind cover. So nearly with all our comps, we try and focus on bombs as they're really broken, and I don't really think people realize how broken they are. Sometimes I've been watching like other scrims in the top 4 this week, and sometimes I'll see a comp with like no bombs or like 1 bomb, and it's very exploitable when your like opponents don't have bombs. So that's why we always try and have like at least 3.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Talking actually about your comp, because you showed a bit of a different look this week in the zone, or this weekend, the past weekend. Talking about that tournament, you beat Radiance in the finals. I think right now that result makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. But did it kind of feel like it was a really nice result for you guys? Because I don't know if you've been keeping track of it in the same way I have, but you guys haven't beat like a Kiva Grey established team since like Inkstorm, like the Inkstorm that got you to Japan that you couldn't go to in the end. That's been a long time. Was that like finally a nice relief to get that W over a team that you've been trying to beat for so long, or was it just kind of normal because you thought you'd beat them?
I mean, we beat them in GSM in one of the GSMs in like I don't
Someone
remember,
mentioned
like
this to me.
February,
Yeah,
March.
I think they were playing with Brian Plonstro. So that's pretty much KP. So
Hmm.
yeah, I suppose yeah.
Yeah, but it always felt like us and Radiance were like pretty equal in skill, and times we fought them in the past year. Well, first off, there haven't really been that many majors, and I think the Summer Ink Storm, I was maybe on like a week of practice, and we had only fought Supernova, so it didn't really feel like we had like a fair attempt to take down Radiance. And this in the zone, it definitely felt like we prepared equally. We were both like pretty close to peak, I'd say, and it just felt nice to beat them,
Yeah.
especially on zones, considering zones has been our worst mode for the longest time.
I was gonna say, like, do you think it's no longer your weakest mode, or you like still think it's your weakest? You're just good enough.
Uh, I think it's kind of hard to say. I definitely would consider it our worst mode. Just because straight up our comp is like we have a AoE player, Kyo, and then not also isn't very strong in zone. So I think a majority of the time we load up in a select screen, we're at a disadvantage. Disadvantage.
Um, so I want to talk about what some of the European teams have been playing because both of the European teams think that both of the European teams are gonna win. Um, so they're really confident that their region's better. They think they play more aggressively and it's gonna roll over you guys. I'm quoting right now. I'm not saying I believe a single word of this. Do you have any
Mhm.
comment on what they're saying there?
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think over the history of the game, Europe has definitely been stronger than NA, with the exception of like FTWin. But I think with Starburst really improving their game in the past few months, I'd argue that like at least Starburst FTWin is definitely better than the top teams in the EU currently. And in terms of like them just running us over, Starburst or specifically FTWin, but definitely Starburst in the past bit have gotten a lot better game sense, and I think dealing with that is something they're like super capable of doing in their match first freeze.
I think as a closing question, I'm really worried that I asked this question specifically, but I think I have similar ones, so I'm going to ask it once again as the final thing. So you are expecting to play against Starburst in the finals. How are you feeling going back into rematch? Do you think with Shak, with the practice, you're really, really feeling it this time, or are you worried they're going to throw anything at you, or if Ice is going to maybe play heavy and it's going to be more difficult, or do you think okay, no, you have Starburst down again? Similar feelings to Freeze, where they're strong but you're confident, or is it something else?
So I watched the Starburst interview, and Brand said something along the lines of like, um, F2N's not that much different with Shak as they were with Toon, and I really think that can be further from the truth. Like the way we played in first the first time we encountered them in TASL would like it's gonna be so much different. We have
Yeah.
Shak now. We're much more practiced, and our synergy is a lot better with having Shak as that like kind of glue role, as I think some people have told it. It's kind of like the bridge between the back being Biscuit and me, and then Kyo like diving. In terms of like how confident, I'd say we're pretty confident. One thing to note is like if we're expecting to fight Freeze and Starburst, if you look at their map pools, both of them have like I think at least 4 zones maps. So it's like it is worrying considering zones is our weakest mode, but definitely coming off that in a zone win and showing that like we are still strong in this mode despite it being our worst is giving us a lot of confidence coming into this playoffs.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I think I'm excited to see that play off. You guys have definitely been improving a lot, and I'm very, very excited to see you guys playing TASL playoffs. But of course, TASL playoffs are going to be happening at the end of this weekend, actually. Pretty sure it's Saturday, but I know it's January 9th for sure. Going to be on Endgame TV's channel, so you guys mark your calendars. You have to watch that. It's going to be super exciting. Thanks very much for coming along today, Burstie. It's been a pleasure, and got a lot of great stuff out of you. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, make sure to subscribe to the TASL YouTube channel, guys. Watch the rest of the interviews if you haven't already before the playoffs this weekend. Watch all the matches in preparation. And again, you've got to make sure to watch that. If you want more information, it's going to be TASL_SPL on Twitter. And again, thanks so much for coming along. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you sometime other, Burstie.
See you.